We get asked the question all the time, can I do my own estate planning? Absolutely. One of the things that we tell everybody all the time is you can also remove your own appendix, but you might want to Google which side of the body to cut on first. For most people, doing their own estate planning, it's not a big deal. If you're a young couple with young kids and all you're wanting to do is pass those assets to those kids, not a big deal. You can typically do that on any kind of social network, ChatGPT or something else. Sometimes your local library actually has forms that you can fill out and do yourself. What we tell everybody all the time is there's nothing wrong with doing your own estate planning. Now, are you going to do it right? That's the other question. Simply put, a lot of people make mistakes on their own estate planning. It is a professional document, and there are certain things that you're supposed to do in each and every state that makes your estate plan valid. Every state has its own rules on what a valid estate plan is. So unless you're aware of those rules, sometimes people run afoul of it. Certain things that people do in their own estate planning in the DIY network, what things that they do that make mistakes are simply this. One, typically they might have a family member sign or witness their documents for them. If you have a family member that may presumably benefit from your estate plan, they cannot be witness. That's paramount in all 50 states. So no matter who you are, if you think a family member might benefit, they can't be a witness. Another thing people do is they forget that when they do an estate plan, sometimes the people that they name in their estate plan are going to be older than them. Young couples tend to name their parents as personal representative. Well, over time, the parents get really old and they don't want to be handling your estate when they turn 70 if there is a loss of life. Two, we like to look at what do people do with their DIY estate plans. What do they think about? Well, typically they think about just giving their money to their kids. But then should you do DIY estate planning? We tell everybody, if you want to do DIY estate planning, by all means go about it. But we also highly encourage you to pay an attorney an hour to review your estate plan. It's something very simple. Not all attorneys will review a person's DIY estate plan because they didn't draft it. I get that. Some attorneys think they're haughty-taughty, think they're above the board, or they're not going to help you out if you're not going to hire them. We understand that. At Full Suite Wealth and Hessler Legal Group, we take that into consideration. Some clients come to us with a DIY estate plan. We'll review it, especially if you're a wealth management customer. We'll actually look at your estate plan, evaluate it, determine whether, one, did you follow the protocols of your state? That's the number one thing you need to know. Did you do that? At a minimum, that has to be a yes. If that is a no, then it needs to be corrected or redone. Two, we ask you a series of questions. What is it that you actually want out of your estate plan? What are you trying to accomplish of your estate plan? Do you have tax implications of your estate plan? Do you have treasured assets that you want to go in a specific way? There are numerous questions that we ask each person that does their DIY estate plan. The reason is because they usually don't take them into consideration. Another interesting aspect about DIY plans that we always work with and talk people through is what do you want to do and how do you want to give it to your children? I know a lot of people say, I don't want my 18-year-old becoming a millionaire. Well, if you don't want your 18-year-old becoming a millionaire, then you probably have to do DIY planning that includes a trust. And so when you're implementing trust provisions, what are you actually doing and what are you able to do? So what we try to do and what we try to talk people through is, what are you trying to accomplish in your DIY plan? If all you're wanting to do is give it to the kids, by all means, try it yourself. But we actually ask you and encourage you to hire a professional. It's just like anything else. If you got a cold or you've got the sniffles or you might think you have the flu, you might go to the store, buy something off the shelf, and see if it accomplishes the goal, which makes you feel better. DIY planning is the same way for estate planning as it is for sickness. You might run to the store, buy something off the shelf, and see if it cures your ills. But if you actually want to see what's going on, determine what your ills might be and to prevent it from the future, maybe you contact a professional. Maybe you go to that doctor. Maybe it's the local clinic. Maybe it's your local attorney. We tell everybody, if you want your assets to be held for people that are older than 18 years old, you might want to consult a professional. You might want to talk to an attorney. In the world of DIY planning for estates, what we have found over the years is that if people just turn around and set up wills, and those wills give money to their kids, we have no problem with that. Because as an attorney, if you were to pass away and your kids need to settle your estate and all you have is a will, I make a lot more money settling your estate in a will than I do you having a revocable trust. So if you're doing DIY planning, typically that includes only a will. There are 4 main documents that you need in any estate plan. You need a will, a living will, a medical power of attorney, and a durable power of attorney. Those at a minimum are what you need for a DIY estate plan. Now, if you hire a professional, they may talk you into having a will, a living will, your 2 power of attorneys, medical and durable. They all might consider using a revocable living trust and or setting up trust for your kids. That way you can then put money that is gifted to them by their grandparents, it's gifted by family members, things they've earned over the years, in a vehicle that's used for them later on in life, not when they turn 18. I don't know about you, but some kids are responsible when they're 18 and some kids are not. I have multiple children. One of them is very responsible, and if I gave him his money at 18, he would handle it wisely. I have another child who's over the age of 18, and if I gave him a considerable amount of money, he would not choose to spend it wisely. So therefore, my own personal estate plan divvies up my assets into a revocable living trust, and then at my death, the assets will then be held in trust for the benefit of my kids at a future date. I actually have family members that are be successor trustees to handle those assets for my children as they get older. But my children have to mature, have to become responsible members of society, and have to give a reason to the trustee of why they need their funds. Otherwise, they need to go out and get another job and provide for themselves. So, when I talk to people about DIY estate planning, the question always comes up, what do you want to do with your estate plan? Do you want to give all the money to your kids at the age of 18? If you don't have kids, where do you want those assets to go? Charity, nephews, nieces, somewhere else. Yes, you can do your own will, but you may not have the other documents like a living will, power of attorney, medical, or durable that you actually need and will use in the future. So what the age-old question, should I do DIY estate planning? Should I do DIY estate planning? That's a question you have to answer for yourself. At a minimum, if you do your own DIY estate planning, we highly encourage you to find a trusted attorney or someone who will overlook your DIY estate plan to make sure that you meet all the requisite requirements of your state. That's number 1. And then 2, maybe they can ask you a couple of questions to see exactly what you want to accomplish with your estate plan. But in all reality, if you're thinking about doing an estate plan, it might behoove you to hire a professional to walk you through some of the early stages of the estate planning questions that you need answered. And at that point, then you can determine, maybe I can do this myself, or maybe I can hire a professional. In the end, we encourage everybody to have an estate plan, because if you don't draft one, the state will provide one for free to you anyway. What do I mean by that? If you don't have a drafted estate plan, the state will direct where your assets will go when you die. So in the end, you either need a DIY plan, you need one provided by the professional, or the state will hand you one for free. Anyway, with this, Jason Hessler signing off, wishing you the best of opportunities in the DIY estate planning realm. And if you need any questions answered, please contact Hessler Legal Group or Full Suite Wealth. We'll be happy to answer those for you.